This is a podcast or something like that. Hey, welcome to the Verbal Journal Podcast, episode 97. Thanks for coming by. Am I not set up correctly? Right? A little parody on what happened last week where I was not set up correctly. Am I not? Am I? You know what I mean? Like, is my window? You know what I mean? I'm making fun of the team here because that was really them messing that up last week. We're going to go over everything. We have new things to talk about as well. Last podcast episode was 1 week ago. This one is 1 week later. And let me tell you, if you don't think time has elapsed, then you don't know that is one thing time will not stop doing. Elapsing. Some people say location. I say time. This is an old joke, but I like it. I'll try to do it. What's the most important part of comedy timing? That would sort of be more like, what's the most important part of comedy pitch? No, wait, because then I'm doing pitch correctly though in that situation. We'll work that out later. Riff to start the episode. Okay. How are we doing? What's new? It's going to be such a fun episode today. If you like the episodes normally, you're going to have extra dopamine coursing through your blood. And if you don't like the episode normally, first of all, what are you doing here? Second of all, I appreciate you being here. Third of all, I'm going to win you over. Right now, we are going to win you over here at the VJP. I got a full coffee. It's Sunday, February 2nd, 22. And we have lots of news, lots of current events. And I just might give a fresh perspective on some of them. That's the Verbal Journal promise. Let's start by, apparently I'm under fire. This is how we're going to start the episode. How did you get authority to do this? Tom, the head of the marketing department and the only member of the marketing department here at Verbal Journal Podcast, wanted to give me feedback on the post. The post where we promoted the last episode. I thought it was pretty good. I did it. No one else did it, so I did it. I was like, I'll do it. This is for everybody, but to access there was a link. Yeah, I don't know why it didn't show up. You would click the link and then it would, I was explaining this to Tom. I was like, people had to click the link. And he said that we need to find a way to get it so it's not just an image of the thumbnail, but I thought the image was good because if you make it something people can click, they don't like when a whole thing is clickable. They want the clickable part to be a small part so that they can kind of choose whether or not they click it rather than clicking it accidentally. Now, what I could do is I could post on the Verbal Journal account, which no one really follows, but you can if you want to. It's pretty easy to get to. And there's a link to it from the main channel. But if I post it on the community page, which I don't have a community page here, is there a reason for that? I must have deleted it when I had nothing to post. Yeah. We could get that back. I just feel like this is not the time, Tom. Like I wanted to, it wasn't that I was avoiding a meeting during the week. I just was busy coming up with today's episode. So we could talk about this another time for sure. Okay, he also wanted to let me know that I shouldn't use words like stimulation. Apparently that's not good marketing language. So I don't know anything about that, but I thought it was good. I thought, you say the word stimulation and then you cause people to feel stimulated. Okay, so is that all the feedback maybe on the marketing? He also said I should market it more. So I'm going to do more posts, maybe daily or every 6 hours. Like, hey, hope you had a good morning. Now that it's late afternoon, how about checking out the most recent podcast episode? Hey, checking in just before bed. Hey, wondering what you thought of the recent, episode. So I think that would probably be, I'll think about it when I'm not live. Or, I mean, recording. I'm not live. That's a good thing. I thought about streaming this weekend, talking about a fun, interesting subject of interpersonal content. But I didn't, then I didn't, which I think was the right call for sure, Okay, but this was a great episode. Thank you. I wanted to give a compliment sandwich to the editor. I've been doing compliment sandwiches. I've been getting better and better at them. Is a compliment I could say to myself. No sandwich needed, right? This is the previous episode, and thank you so much to Monica, the editor, for blurring this out. As I said, you need to blur that out. And I think I said it around here. Yep, because you can tell I'm writing a note to make sure. Let's get our editor, Monica. Can you make sure to blur out this image? Blur out Chagall. Your job depends on it. Okay. And that's why you're still here. So well done. And there were some moments that were not easy to blur out. Actually, I have to give credit where credit's due. There were also some moments where you didn't effectively blur it out, but that's not even part of the compliment sandwich. I just wanted to mention that on the side. And then I had to go in on YouTube and affect the blur out. And people can tell. But it is very interesting if we can find the moment. It was, I believe, 28:32. Faithfully to you by blurring it out. Next up, we have... See that? This one was added from YouTube. Next, I don't need the embed codes. Thank you very much. Those were added from YouTube because I had to cover your... mistakes. But that wasn't even part of the negative. Sorry, I wasn't trying to be negative there. That was the good part of the sandwich. Good job blurring Chagall. The bad job was you accidentally, I guess. Remember the thing I was mocking? I'm going to mute it. Remember the thing I was mocking? This moment? Why did we not fix this? You know what I mean? Agreement. Okay. It took me a while to get that done. I went to a few places. Look how sad I was. But first, more importantly, I think more relevantly to the people watching. Oh, wow. The window's been like that the whole time? Holy. Look how sad I got. And we couldn't just fix that. I know how we could have fixed that. You know what I mean? Screenshot, crop into Photoshop, enlarge, and overlay. It's a static image. No one needs to see anything of them do. You know what I mean? So that would have been 1 minute, and you could have avoided this whole compliment sandwich situation. To finish up the sandwich, because I do recognize there has to be a good part. The intro was pretty good. This is a podcast or something like that. On staubigen Kreton. Sie war müde. That was a good intro. And maybe you were a little müde. That means tired. Auf Deutsch. When you forgot to make everything else perfect. Okay, moving on to the episode episode 97. We will be doing a special episode for 100. Next episode 98 is going to be public, just on the regular try episode system where every third is public. But then the one after that will be private, 99, and then the one after that will be a surprise 100, episode 100, public episode. And I don't know, I don't know what I can say about that right now. Okay, so let's start the midsection. The midsection is really good this week. First we have the grinds my gears segment. I don't have anything here. I think we wanted to not do it, right? Because I'm not going to improvise something. I'm in a great mood. I'm not about to bring the mood down right now. Main section of the midsection. This guy is in the news for doing this. This was at the presidential inauguration. This is the business person and one of the richest people, meaning he has amassed the most wealth on this planet where an enormous amount of people are struggling to meet their daily needs. This man who donated or gave or spent is probably a better verb for it, at least $250 million, $250,000 on the presidential election on a specific candidate who did go on to win. This is this rich, filthy rich man, South African national, born to son of a man who operated some sort of emerald mine, and I believe has spoken out regarding the character of his own son. I believe this man, at the presidential inauguration that he had purchased a ticket to speak at, and he also makes, I'm just trying to give you the proper context, he makes his influence known in other ways, reaching out to other countries. We'll talk a little bit more later, reaching out to Germany to support the Alternative for Germany party, which is a far-right party with, I believe, actual historical links to the National Socialists who killed millions of people in sort of the most obvious form of centralized fascism murder. So this guy is supporting a party that is far right in Germany, with his money and his fame and his businesses. And this is him at the same historical moment speaking at the inauguration, and he makes a symbol twice. Now I'm just going to show you the video. Can I do it without audio? No, let's do the audio. We need to really understand, yeah.
I want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you. My heart goes out to you.
You know, when people make a symbol and then they sort of say what it meant afterwards, that's a very common thing. And obviously, people will freeze frame the first one. But that's obviously the expression you make when you're saying my heart goes out to you. That's the emphatic way you throw your hand up. And then I think freeze framing this one, obviously it's the second one, so it's like, I mean, look, it's not debatable. If you actually live in a world where you think with all that context, and there's so much context I didn't give, the way he talks about birth rates in a sort of Nazi way. He responded, "You have said the truth," to someone who said that Jews are like enemies of white people. He clearly pals around with Nazis online, and if you don't realize that, you're like a boomer. At the end of the day, you don't even need to argue about it. But what I wanted to see was, so let's watch it one more time, and then we're going to look at what the comments say, because that's what I found most interesting. So for the main section and the midsection, we're going to look at the comments to understand the human mind. We're going to sort by new.
I want to say thank you for making it happen.
No pausing.
Thank you.
It's good to have the audio to know he
My
goes.
heart goes out to you. It is thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured.
Oh, by the way, that's a big deal too. It is thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured. If you don't know what the 14 words are, they're slogans by a domestic terrorist and a white nationalist supremacist organization. We must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children. So it's just like a motto. They need a motto to rally around. We must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children. Secure a future.
It is thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured.
Oh, assured. So he didn't say secured. So how could you ever think that he was using coded language? I mean, obviously, everyone who would defend this, like the ADL and like a million Nazis and like a bunch of random like bros, like a lot of people just have it. It's like it's in their self interest to not pay attention to this, and because for so many reasons, it's such a huge thing to admit for a lot of people. And I get that. It's hard to admit. But when you look at the totality of the evidence, and it's not that rare, like, I mean, what are the odds that a billionaire would be, you know, inappropriately attracted to children? I mean, there would be obviously a high chance with all the rich people that exist. What are the chances that I'm trying to say it in a way that is not offensive to YouTube. What are the chances? What are the chances that a billionaire or rich person would be a Nazi? Well, I mean, that would be probably. I mean, there's got to be some, right? I mean, it's not like, yeah. So, anyways, let's see what the comments say because obviously the top comments are understandable. Yeah, they all are understandable. They understand. But when you sort by new, okay. Some people, it's just interesting because this person says I got suspended 5 days for doing this. Elon Musk did it on national TV. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, as bad as this is for his companies, he's trying to make up for that with the most immense amounts of oligarchy that you could conceivably imagine. Like, there is like no limit. Like, you can't even imagine how oligarchical things can get unless you're very well versed in history. Companies can just be profiting so much when they ally with the government, and it's very obvious to see these tech companies chomping at the teat, I believe is the expression. I will die remembering this. So a lot of people are really pissed off. So when the left does it, it's completely normal. I'm going to need some context for that. This was not by accident. Yeah, let's just see. It's good to see what people can say. Not a Nazi salute. Okay, that's no argument given. Strange salute. He's making a gesture for him giving out his love, not the salute, bruh. Okay. So, I mean, I don't feel like I've ever seen that. And I'm not just saying it. Okay, he's not Nazi saluting. Yeah, he's giving out his love in a nice gesture. It's the same person from before. Roman salute. I don't believe that's a real thing, actually, historically. And why would he do a Roman salute? Wasn't even close to a Nazi salute. He touched his heart. I mean, I guess. But like then you would go like this, right? My heart goes out to you. My heart goes out to you. My heart, there's like literally no way. Like, my heart goes out to you. Like, you're like throwing your heart. It's ridiculous. I mean, look, it's not about, like, okay, then if you defend him on this, why is he supporting the far right party in Germany? Next question. Why does he tweet about, birth rates and worry about immigration exactly in the same ways as a white supremacist? Why did he respond, you have said the absolute truth to someone who said that Jews dislike white people? You have said the truth, Elon, Jews, white people. Because if you don't show the source, people, people are like, hey, you didn't show the source, Well, it must not exist. I'm not looking for it. Elon Musk agrees with tweet accusing Jewish people of hatred against whites. This was a year and a half ago. So he's a changed man, obviously. The tweet said Jewish communities spelled wrong, have been pushing the exact kind of dialectical. Oh, they said dialectical, so they must be right. Hatred against whites. Jewish communities are pushing the hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. Oligarch Musk responded, "You have said the actual truth." And then he said, "I am deeply offended by ADL's messaging and any other groups who push de facto anti-white racism or anti-Asian racism or racism of any kind." So, you know, I have a lot of criticism for the ADL because they're weird. Like, they defended Musk on this, and they defended him on this, and then they got mad that he like made puns, called it an awkward gesture, and then they said, "Please don't joke about the Holocaust." So it's like you can make a salute from the podium. I mean, to be clear, if he was just at some party, I would still be outraged. But the fact that he's, you know, at a inauguration with the presidential seal there, like, you got to worry a little bit about this stuff. So I think he must have given a bunch of money, obviously, to them, because like between the last year and a half and now, they're defending him for doing a Nazi salute after he, you know, says how they were spreading anti-white racism. Anyways, so interesting. Yeah, so if people wanted to defend this, you have to immediately then move on to defending these other things. Even a Nazi salute can't take away Elon Musk's loneliness. Poor baby, dead by 30. The world says, "Where is your Caravaggio?" I don't know what this person's on. Wow, they're like predicting someone's death. But I do like this line. Well, this is awkward. Yeah. Bevor man den Medien vertraut und Elon jetzt als neue Adolf Hitler hinstellt und laut schreit, habe den Hitlergruß gemacht, schaut euch, I don't know German that well, das Video an und informiert euch, wie der Hitlergruß wirklich war. Before people did this and Elon was the new Adolf Hitler, became and people wrote, I don't know. Before you trust the media, okay. Before you, the media, trust and Elon and consider him the new and hold him as the new Adolf Hitler, and people write, what is Hitler Gruß? Oh, salute. Yeah, so they're defending him. Wow. And a lot of German. Das ist nur ein Zeugnis von Angst und Dummheit. Fear and stupidity. Okay, I don't know. He's just autistic. I don't think that's an autistic thing at all, though. Yeah. And like, you don't notice how you don't see, isn't he part Jewish? I don't think so. Not that I've heard. Let's see. Elon Musk, Jewish. Oh, he said, oh, interesting. Oh, well, I mean, he did say he's Jewish by association after visiting Auschwitz. Wow, that's, about
this. I must admit to.
Okay, so he visited Auschwitz concentration camp. This is after that whole liking the tweet saying the Jews are supporting anti-white hatred. Which, by the way, like, the idea of the Jews supporting anti-white hatred, you don't go any further after that to anti-Semitism, or like, that's it. You've reached the finish line. There's no, like, there's a lot of shades of bigotry sometimes where you start stepping into it and people are like, they don't really know. It's more about unfamiliarity. But like, when you're saying things like, oh, this group, it has a motive that is malicious and just inherently to them being part of that group, you've reached the finish line of the bigotry and you're ready to start doing what those other guys started doing.
I must admit to being somewhat, frankly, naive about this. In the circles that I move, I see almost no anti-Semitism. And you know, there's this old joke. I've got like this one Jewish friend. No, I have like 2/3 of my friends are Jewish. Okay, I have twice as many Jewish friends as non-Jewish friends. I'm like,
Okay. That's a little specific. So you don't see a lot of anti-Semitism, but you know a bunch of Jews. Probably, I mean, I assume you know very rich people, so you probably know like the absolute richest people, right? And they're not struggling with bigotry. I mean, yeah, anti-Semitism is also, I should say, like, as a Jewish person, I think anti-Semitism is not that big of a problem these days compared to anti-Muslim sentiment or Islamophobia, I guess. That's weird that it's not called anti-Islam. You know, it's phobia when it's Islam, but it's anti-Semitism. You wouldn't say Jewophobia, I hope. So I think anti-Islam sentiment and also anti-immigrant sentiment is like way more the outlet, at least the policy outlet and the practical outlet, the material outlet of bigotry. Also, you know, there's obviously a lot of bigotry against all sorts of different groups, women, trans people, non-binary people, and you know, I mean, they really are just trying to streamline the government for total, like irrational accumulation of wealth. Like they're just evaporating the parts of the government that cost money and bring non-financial benefits. The ones they can't monetize will be not part of the future for our white children.
Jewish by association. I'm aspirationally Jewish.
That's really, really weird. Like to say that about someone, a part of someone's identity, is very offensive.
I'm aspirationally Jewish.
So, a year after this, he does that sign we saw him do on stage after saying he's aspirationally Jewish. If someone says really positive things about Jewish people, it's super sus. Philos. I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm philo-Semitic. I love Jewish people. It's like, nah, give us the normal amount of attention.
So I don't, you know, I was like, what are people talking about with this anti-Semitism? Because I never hear it when at dinner conversations. It's like an absurdity. You know,
What's like an absurdity? What? Seems like an overstatement.
You know, at least in my friend circles. But when, you know,
That's not being naive. That's being stupid. Like, yes, we all know that you don't, like, it's stupid to think that your naivety is anything but the normal state of someone and, like, you could just inform yourself. We're spending too long in this segment? Okay.
Looking at the pro-Hamas rallies in vast numbers that took place in almost every major city in the West.
Oh, my God. If you're anti-Israel, you're doing a pro-Hamas rally. I mean, people would support Hamas when they're like, who the hell else is fighting against this one state committing murder against a people? You know how many Palestinians have been displaced and killed since 1948? So, like, how are people supposed to find their outlet for rejection of that continuously happening?
Blew my mind. And including on the elite college campuses that are supposed to be.
He's like, look, if I'm super pro-Israel, will people just stop paying attention to me saying things like I'm aspirationally Jewish? So anyways, you know, I don't see a lot of people saying that was not a Nazi salute and the far-right party he supports in Germany is not far-right, and when he said he's aspirationally Jewish, it wasn't offensive because he's just awkward, and when he said that Jews are promoting anti-white hatred, he was just being awkward. And, you just happen to not see that. Cringe and weird SS no. Okay. No basis for the argument. Dogecoin says, because the context, everybody makes mistakes. We have a segment about that coming up later if we get to it, actually. That's maybe a sign that I should move on to the next. So that was the main segment of the midsection. So it's okay that we spent a lot of time on it because we always respect the honor of the main sections, whether it's the main section of the episode or the main segment. I'm sorry if I said main section a second ago. Main segment of this midsection. We always respect the mainness by making it the longest part. If it's the main part, it's the longest part. That's what I always say. So next up, we have the good news segment where we talk about good news. There's a lot of, there's a lot of stuff going on that people could be kind of aggravated by. For instance, what we were just talking about. So we wanted to specify that there is also good news coming out these days. Let's look at it right now. Novo Nordisk to cap insulin prices in Minnesota settlement. Joins Lilly and Sanofi. This company agreed to cap insulin prices to settle a lawsuit in which Minnesota's attorney general accused the three largest insulin makers of charging astronomically high prices for the diabetes drug. Interesting. The settlements reduce patients' insulin costs by more than 90%, ending many years when manufacturers prioritize making billions and profits over saving lives. Wow, insulin is vital to control blood sugar in patients with type 1 diabetes and some type 2 diabetes. So they set artificially high prices and then negotiated lower prices by paying rebates to pharmacy benefit managers. So they worked together, and that's why they were all sued together. Is that right? Did they work together? Now insulin will be capped at $35, whether or not the patients have insurance. And then... Okay, yeah, people who need it will get free insulin. That sounds humane. Next up on the good news segment, Biden commutes life sentence of Leonard Peltier. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. I didn't really know about this case until very recently, to be totally honest. I was out of the know, but it was a very well-known case. Native American activist imprisoned for almost 50 years. A lot of people said he was innocent in the alleged killing of two FBI agents. So Joe Biden decided sort of, I guess, I don't know if he was conscious of this, but the Joe Biden administration decided to do things that people would, like again. I mean, they might have done some in the beginning, but they decided to do things that people would like right before they left. Kind of leave a good taste in your mouth. Peltier is now 80 years old. I don't know what this quote is doing there. Oh, okay. The White House said. Suffers from severe health ailments and has spent the majority of his life, nearly half a century in prison. The commutation will enable Mr. Peltier to spend his remaining days in home confinement, but will not pardon him. Wow, so they still didn't pardon him. I mean, it's just, it's people should only be locked up if, like, I don't know. Not for that long. I don't know if you should ever lock someone up for that long. It's just like it's too risk averse, and I'm pretty risk averse. But like, I mean, if you have definitive proof that someone killed someone like in a way that was not at all, self defense, maybe like 10 years. 50 years. He's long maintained his innocence, and his commutation is set to draw fierce opposition from members of law enforcement who contend. It came just minutes before Trump took office. Okay. So I wish I knew more about the story, to be honest, but it is good that he's out of prison. Um, a lot of people have backed his release, including these guys. Um, so maybe he wouldn't be wanted. He wouldn't want a pardon because you're sort of admitting that you did the thing. If you get a pardon, is how it looks. So he wanted the opportunity to get out of prison and get a new trial. Okay, well, glad he's out of prison. Next up on the good news segment, we were talking about Germany. The conservative opposition just this past week, this weekend actually, they drafted a immigration law they worked together with the far right AFD party. We were talking about the oligarchs supporting. And then after the Conservative Party did that with the AFD, the bill was not passed. And the Conservatives were accused of breaching an agreement against cooperating with the far right. A wave of protests from the public, politicians, and even some of the Conservatives' own party. 67% of voters backed permanent border controls, including over half the supporters of Chancellor Olaf Scholz's Social Democrats. Permanent border controls, I don't know exactly what that means. When I crossed into Germany on my recent trip, I went to Vienna, Prague, and then Frankfurt. And when I went from Prague to Frankfurt, I took a train. It was a long train. It went through Regensburg. So I believe I was on, when I got somewhere across the border into Germany going to Regensburg, like these two, or like one was really buff and the other was just like a normal looking guy, like plain clothes, I guess, immigration cops or something, came on the train car and just started like asking a few people questions. They asked like one guy, they were questioning one guy for so long that like the train was stopped and we should have been moving again. And it was just like a guy who was in like very like street clothes and sort of like big jacket and maybe like weird hair and stuff and like sort of young, like and so I don't know whether they had anything to go on. It just that he looked a little weird. So they questioned him for a super long time, 10 minutes or 15 minutes or something. And then we, I think before we got moving, I don't remember exactly, but then they questioned someone who was just a person of color. They were, and so the immigration, and I'm sitting there like, I'm not a resident of either the country we're coming from or the country we're going to. And I'm just, they don't question me because I guess, I just am white or I look just like a way to them that they don't want to question. So I don't know. I just think, border controls can be a little bit silly and irrational like that and bad in the way they're executed. I think like in the US and probably any country, like, you can have a border. Like, as of now, we have borders, but like the way you enforce it could be like, oh, we're just way less difficult about giving people green cards, citizenship. Like, we could have the same process, but like expedited, or make it so we're not locking people away and like criminalizing, a civil instance and even just treating it, just treating it more as a permeable border. A similar sort of story. Migration law is just on the same story, a different article, longer article. 12 of the conservatives' own legislators refused to support him with this bill. They have a lead, but they might have overplayed their hand. Yeah. Yeah, on Blue Sky. People using Blue Sky. I have a Blue Sky. Blue skies, blue skies. Here's my blue sky today. Okay. So, and then, they're gonna, maybe they're gonna, Maybe they're going to start listening to the Nazis less or more. I don't know. Next up on the good news desk, a U.S. judge blocks Trump administration from transferring transgender inmate. So there's a trans woman that after the new president signed an order directing the federal government to only recognize two biologically distinct sexes, which, by the way, is not how scientists understand sex, to be clear. It is anti-scientific, just like believing in the Bible as literal truth. So prisons like this one immediately changed their recognition of this person that they had incarcerated, and denied her access to gender affirming care, and like we're gonna transfer her to a men's facility. Are you kidding me? So lawsuit was filed on Sunday, a week ago, I guess. And the judge ordered prison officials to keep the inmate in the general population in a women's facility and maintain her medical care. I did notice, this was interesting to me. The article ended by saying, her lawyers argued that Trump executive order discriminated based on sex, which obviously it does. If you're saying you literally are discriminating based on sex, you're saying like women can't get certain hormones, but men can, and vice versa. You're saying women can't do this, gender affirming care, or or men insofar as they are the sex they are. So you are discriminating based on sex. Violation of due process. The lawyers argued that her impeding transfer to a men's prison would also violate the U.S. Constitution's 8th Amendment prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment. I thought it was interesting, and it shows the bias of Reuters, in my opinion, that the article ends on something the lawyers have said instead of ending on the judge's order, which is the point of the article. The judge did something. This was not just lawyers saying lawyer stuff. So I think you should end the article on the fact that the judge said something. Good news, best friends can sometimes get along. Starbucks and the union withdraw lawsuits filed against each other, company says. So as part of this negotiations process with the union representing 10,000 baristas, employees. It's a fancy word for employees when you're doing coffee. I just make my own coffee. I don't call myself a barista, frankly, but the company said, so the two sides agreed to bring in a mediator, and the mediator was like, look, you got to stop suing each other. That's why you pay me the big bucks to mediate. So they are going to stop suing each other, and I guess best friends do exist. Why am I saying stuff like that? Let's close some windows, shall we? Da, 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 da. I wish I had one more window to close so I could end on the root note. Okay, so what do we have here? Next up, we're going to be going into a fantastic segment. Let me try that again. Okay, so this next segment is a great new, not brand new, but very new segment that we have where we're trying to bring positivity into the conversation about chief executive officers. People have been super negative about chief executives chief executive officers. So I wanted to bring some positivity to the conversation, talk about chief execs, as I call them, in a nice light. Wanted to congratulate Disney's Bob Iger for his $41 million that he was paid last year. A 30% increase over the year before. So we were talking about this last time. Most of us get 30% increases every year in our pay, minimum. The chief executive officer that we talked about last week, it was only 26%. So I think that was because he actually, as we talked about, didn't do a good job. So he only got a 26% bump. But Bob Iger, 30% bump up to 41 mil. Very standard and normal. I think everyone gets 41 million if you work at Disney. Let me see. No, I don't. That's probably not true. They have a lot of employees. The entertainment giant increased the overall compensation of its chief executive officer by 30% last year. We were saying that already. That's already basically. You got a base salary of 1 mil, but then there's 7 mil in bonuses, as well as 18.3 in stock, 12 in options, 2 in comp and other. That's just like freaking, he got a car and like they put him on, like they got him some nice sunglasses. So that's because he directed Inside Out 2 and Deadpool and Wolverine. 2 films I have not stopped talking about ever since I saw them. Brought in $3 billion. People should stop seeing movies. You ever think about that? What if everyone just stopped seeing movies and we just did a strike on Hollywood? Anyone ever think about that? Write that down. And write into verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.gov. Let me know what you think about that. Smithland. Okay, so great job, Bob. Oh, there's more. The Abigail Disney, the granddaughter of Roy Disney and grandniece of Walt Disney, that's the one I know, criticized Bob Iger's compensation, saying that though she liked Iger and though he was doing an excellent job of CEO, the pay ratio of CEO versus others at the company was insane. Wow. Good job, Abigail Disney. Holy, there's a good Disney? Disney notes that executive compensation, including Iger's, is determined via a review of media peers. Oh, wait, this is the bad Disney. That's bad Disney. Wow, there's a good Disney. Abigail Disney. Wow. Good job, Abigail. Sorry, I don't know you well. I do that sometimes. Next up on chief executive. I'm sorry. I think I might have called it a desk. I definitely last time called it a desk. It's an uplifting segment. Not a desk. Chief executive segment. Next up, UFC head Dana White responds to fighter Bryce Mitchell's praise of Hitler. So, there's been a lot. You know what I mean? The floodgates are kind of open. This is a few days after the old thing that Elon threw out there. Mixed martial artists. I love artists. Bryce Mitchell said, I've bleep bleep bloop. Oh no, hold on. That's not what he said. This is what Dana White said. We don't have the quotes. I guess I have to go to this link, but I can do that. Okay, this is just a big page of stuff. This is just a CBS tag for the word Holocaust. Okay. I really thought that was going to be a link to the story. Thanks, CBS. Okay. Bryce Mitchell comments Hitler. It's actually annoying that you can't find them and you're just finding articles of people talking about it. Here we go.
So UFC
Are they going to show it?
won't take any disciplinary actions against Bryce Mitchell for President. Dana White criticized Mitchell, but starts each as a reason his Hitler on an Arkansas-themed. White invited people who don't like Mitchell to watch.
Okay. So no one wants to tell me what was actually said. Bryce Mitchell issued a public apology of sorts, saying, "I'm sorry if I sounded insensitive. I'm sorry if the auditory stimulation of my vocal sounds created or had any influence on any sense of upset feelings. Hitler did a lot of evil things. I think we can all agree on that. Yeah? Name one. I'm definitely not a Nazi, doesn't capitalize it. And definitely do not condone any of the evil things Hitler did. Like what? I know that a lot of people died in the Holocaust. People, like which people? And that's a fact. And how many, do you think? But what were the comments? Okay, here we go. The comments he was responding to there, he said, "I honestly think that Hitler was a good guy based upon my own research, not my public education indoctrination," he told his co-host, fellow UFC veteran Rolando Delgado. He fought for his country, who I'm sure argued vociferously. He fought for his country, Mitchell continued. He wanted to purify it by kicking the greedy Jews out that were destroying his country and turning them all into gays. So Jews are against white people and against straight people. We are against all that is normal. We want the society to be weird and gay and not white. And we make jokes all the time. And we, you know... The UFC featherweight also proclaimed that there was, quote, no possible way they could have burned and cremated 6 million bodies, and therefore, quote, the Holocaust ain't real. So, wow, I guess he must really mean it when he then came out and said that actually on this photo of me shirtless with an American flag draped around me, which is, by the way, desecrating of the flag, as far as I understand. Then he said, "Oh, but look, if he can say that, I mean, these words aren't even in quotes." not to be pedantic. No, you didn't sound insensitive when you say that Hitler wanted to purify Germany by kicking the greedy Jews out. No, that doesn't. You sound very sensitive to the problem of greedy Jews that are impure, and you also hate gay people. So. I'm sorry, I've never been one to watch fighting, so I don't know who this guy is. I've always thought it was kind of weird how people watch fighting, personally. I don't really watch fighting. Next up on Chief Executive, but anyways, good job to Dana White for saying that this was dumb and ignorant, and that he doesn't like Hitler, and that White is dumb and ignorant. No disciplinary actions against Mitchell. Of course, yeah. I mean, why would you want to discipline someone? Why should there be consequences? If I was employing someone and paying them and they made public comments, I have to just continue employing them because, you know, what am I going to do? Change the terms of my contract based on something? Companies are not allowed to ever change the terms of their contracts with independent contractors. That would be unbelievable. He thinks he's dumb, but he gets the views. Next up on... But anyways, good job to the chief executive. That is not your fault. You know what I'm saying? Never forget that Dana White said that the guy he's paying millions of dollars, presumably, is dumb. Next up on Chief Executive Officer desk, Mark Zuckerberg defends embrace of Trump administration in Meta employee meeting. I'm working on doing the voice every single headline, so it's not weird. So I love this accountability. He spoke with his employees in a meeting and defended his honor. In a wide-ranging Q&A with Meta employees on Thursday, Zuckerberg, the company's chief executive, defended recent changes he had made by loosening restrictions on online speech and ending diversity initiatives, and doubled down on embracing President Trump's new administration. He says, "We have the opportunity to have a productive partnership with the United States government. We're going to take that He said it's fundamental to be on better terms with governments around the world because governments can be sort of actively opposing you, trying to get in the way and add a lot of friction, or it can be actively trying to help you break down barriers to help you make money. It's the right thing to do for our goals. It's the right thing to do in a sort of strategic sense. Yeah, I mean, if you work for a company like this, I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't really know how you sleep at night, to be honest. And all the people who work for all the military companies, like, but I get it. I do know how you sleep at night. We're all coerced and forced to work, but like, I mean, you're not going to change this in the right direction. Like the chief executives have the power, and you need to kowtow to them because they will make these decisions whenever they want. And this is what this is about: is clamping down on employee dissent by banning workplace discussions around certain contentious and political issues. Remove tampons from the men's bathroom because they don't want to recognize trans people. God forbid they recognize trans people at their enormous company of 70,000 employees. Logically, that would be many thousands of trans people. That's thousands of trans people. Let's say half of them are trans men. I mean, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of people who are feeling like their identity is being rejected by their work, is what I'm trying to say. And it's completely avoidable and malicious. But he's the chief executive officer. He declines to comment, or you know what I mean, or like whatever. Like, he can do what he wants because we respect that because this is the chief executive officer desk. I'm trying to keep a good vibe going. Trouble in paradise. Elon Musk clashes with Norway Wealth Fund CEO. Quote, friends are as friends do. This is him speaking to the AfD, the Alternative for Deutschland party, the far-right party of Germany that we have previously discussed on this episode 97 of the VJP. Chief Executive Officer Elon Musk has clashed with Nicolai Tangen, CEO of Norway's Sovereign Wealth Fund, one of the automaker's top investors. So one of Tesla's top investors, according to a record of the conversation released on Tuesday. Last June, the fund voted against Musk's $56 billion pay package. So we talked about Iger getting $41 million. Elon wants $56 billion. So that's a bit more. It's 1,000 times more plus. The largest for chief executive in corporate America at Tesla's annual general meeting over concerns about its size and structure, among other things. Later, Tangen invited Musk to participate in a one-day conference in Oslo the fund is organizing in April this year. So your investor asks you to participate in this. Proceeded a day before with a home-cooked dinner at Tangen's private residence. Musk turned the invitation down, writing in an iMessage to Tangen on October 14th, when I ask you for a favor, which I very rarely do, and you decline, then you should not ask me for one until you've done something above nothing to make amends. Friends are as friends do, he followed up like an edgy teenager. Wow. Very cool. The other guy responded professionally the next day and said, noted and fully understand, as a large shareholder, we cheer for you. Good luck with everything. Best, Nikolai. So he's talking to your child. They're Tesla's seventh largest investor with about a 1% stake worth $6 billion. But friends are as friends do, and it was not very friendly to vote against a $56 billion pay package. So if you want me to eat your dinner and come speak at your event, if you want me to come to your family home and eat your dinner and then come speak at your event, but you don't think I deserve $56 billion, how am I supposed to call you my friend? Is a good question. So props to the chief executive officer. This is a battle of chief executive officers, actually. It's kind of tearing me apart. Let's go on to the next one. Stefan Marsan, the chief executive officer of Brandy Melville. I just recently saw a news article I wanted to show you. This is a clothing company with a lot of accusations against them. He's not the typical chief executive officer because why? Why? In a better, meaning he's even better than the typical. They made a documentary about it, which I watched, and it was very interesting. Lot of messed up. So this guy would just basically like micromanage all his stores into a very toxic workplace as best as he can by basically making literal children, girls, 15, 16, 17, like send photos, like through their managers, send photos to him so he could approve whether their outfit was good enough and whether they were attractive enough to work there. And people literally got fired. The managers would just be told to make up reasons and then fire a girl for not being hot enough to the owner and CEO of the company. And so very toxic workplaces, also just like all these associated situations where he created or is alleged to have created unsafe environments. All this is alleged. I don't know that I don't remember what had been proven in court. Memes about Hitler, but they were just memes, right? People, this is a very normal thing for people to joke about. A former store owner featured in the documentary was asked on camera if he thought Marsan was anti-Semitic, to which he replied, I don't know. When I saw him wearing a Hitler outfit, I wasn't surprised. I laughed out loud at that point in the film. So very unsafe work environments. Former employees at the NYC store alleged the documentary that employees of color, especially black, were relegated to the stockroom or night shifts. So yeah, but is he still the chief executive officer? Following these exposés, he remained in his position. He was sued by a former senior vice president and other former Canadian store owners in 2 separate lawsuits against a company that oversees the stores in the U.S. that alleged they were fired because they refused to fire employees based on race and appearance. The big company denied that it had ever done stuff like that, but then the chief executive declined to comment. If chief executives love to do one thing, it's decline to comment. And that is their right. And this one's the owner, not the CEO, but I just thought it was nice. He was giving some comments. He said that adding Tom Brady as a minority owner brought a needed piece that's been missing from the organization since someone named John Gruden resigned. He said, I just like seeing owners, giving supportive, emotional support to people. He said, back in, I guess it was 18 with John Gruden, he was somebody that I brought in and really expected to be that person on the football side that would bring stability to the organization. He had a 10-year contract and all that, and his head was chopped off. And we were put in a really bad position as an organization. So I was reading that, and I'm like, wait, what? That's crazy that a coach had their head chopped off? But he was actually referring to Gruden resigned as the Raiders head coach in 2021 after reports surfaced that emails he wrote over a 10-year period included racist, misogynistic, and anti-gay language. He was employed by ESPN as the lead analyst for Monday Night Football at the time he sent the emails. ESPN's very nice it's good, professional of them to say that. Gruden sent emails to the president of Washington's NFL franchise and others during a 7-year period that ended in 2018. That came to light during an investigation the NFL did into workplace misconduct with Washington under former owner of Washington. Some owners are not as good as others, but this owner wanted to make sure that his friend's head was okay after he was held accountable for things he had said. So that was an uplifting segment. Not all of them will be. We're still in the in the midsection. We're still in the midsection. I almost said main section. We're still in the midsection. This is the this is just so the a Gaza checkpoint to be staffed by scores of armed American contractors. This is Reuters from 3 days ago. A small U.S. security firm is hiring nearly 100 U.S. Special Forces veterans to help run a checkpoint in Gaza during the Israel-Hamas truce, according to a company spokesperson in a recruitment email seen by Reuters, introducing armed American contractors into the heart of one of the world's most violent conflict zones. UG Solutions, a low-profile company founded in 2023 based in Davidson, North Carolina, is offering a daily rate starting at $1,100 with a $10,000 advance to veterans it hires. They will staff the checkpoint at a key intersection in Gaza's interior. Wow. Military contractors, private military contractors from the U.S. being paid $1,000 a day to work at checkpoints separating an apartheid state after genocide is briefly paused. So many tens of thousands of people killed and so many more displaced. We're going to talk a little bit more about this later, but anyways, so job opportunity. If you want to get paid and you're a veteran and you don't mind having like probably one of the most evil situations ever. Next up, we have the Everyone Makes Mistakes segment. Paramount in settlement talks with Trump over 60 Minutes lawsuit. So everyone makes mistakes, and Trump has sued CBS for $10 billion days before this past election for saying he said they deceptively edited a video with Harris. A lot of legal experts said it was far-fetched, but now he's back in the White House and CBS's parent company. So companies have parents, like we just talked about, Brandy Melville, Bastiat, CBS, Paramount. There are parents. It's a beautiful, you have a childhood as a company, you grow up, you have your parents, you take after them. But Paramount apparently believes that the settling the lawsuit would increase the odds the Trump administration would not block or delay their planned multi-billion-dollar merger, which is like a marriage, with another company, according to several people with knowledge of the matter. Paramount's controlling shareholder, Sherry Redstone, strongly supports the efforts to settle, according to two people with knowledge of her thinking. She stands to clear billions of dollars on the sale of Paramount, the media empire founded by her father. That should be illegal. I don't think people should be able to inherit that much money. It just doesn't seem right when so much poverty exists. It just doesn't seem right. Then they just store it in, private investments. So a settlement would be an extraordinary concession by a major U.S. media company to a sitting president, especially in a case in which there's no evidence that the network got facts wrong or damaged the plaintiff's reputation. Wow. You almost might say that's a bribe, no? No, that would be crazy, right? To call that a bribe. Just because they're paying money they don't have to pay. They're settling a apparently unrealistic lawsuit they don't have to settle. To get the right to, they're underway with talks to try to make it easier for them to clear the way for them to be able to sell. They don't think they'll be able to do it while they have this lawsuit against them filed by the current sitting president days before he was elected. Days before he was, elected, What happened was during the interview, the correspondent asked Harris a question about the conflict in the Middle East, but then she was shown giving a different answer. That's super weird. But that they just cut it down was what they said. It's like not the craziest. It's definitely on the line. I'm not surprised that it's not like suable. It's not I could see that not being technically doctored. If they did it to a certain degree, maybe it would be. But at the time, CBS said the lawsuit was completely without merit because it relies on a largely untested interpretation of a Texas law that prohibits deceptive trade practices and things like marketing. And he brought it in Texas. But Paramount owns broadcasting licenses. It needs the blessing of the FCC to complete its merger with Skydance. That's what we're looking for. So everyone makes mistakes. So CBS is like, and Paramount's like, whoops, we made a mistake by saying that was a completely frivolous lawsuit. Actually, it's something we will pay a lot of money to settle because we were so wrong to do stuff that way, to cut it in that way. Next up, we have follow-ups. Why did I do follow-ups already? We were supposed to not do them right at the beginning, and I did them right at the beginning. You know? We got to do better about that. Someone needs to remind me better about that. But anyways, other follow-up is on the previous episode, I'm sorry. This one I'm actually slightly sorry about. I didn't say spoiler alert when I started talking about shows and movies inside. You know, I mean, if I brought up like Popstar and then talked about how it had a happy ending and that messed with your head, I'm so sorry. And then The Lobster. But in general, if someone brings up a movie on a podcast, you should assume they're going to talk about it, right? But maybe I should have said spoiler alert nonetheless. Sorry about that. Okay. So we have, next up, I wanted to briefly just talk about, this is the main section. Why we weren't supposed to make this the main section, because I don't have that much to talk about this, and we're trying to change that whole thing where the main section's short. It's been a funny bit, but people are getting kind of sick of the bit. I just wanted to highlight Hans is back to making content. After his Hans Against the World thing kind of came to a crash when he got stomped by Magnus and then Hikaru in back-to-back days in this tournament. After talking a lot of shit, he sort of changed his vibe. He stopped for a few months, and then he came back with a vengeance with like super graphic images and very cocky things. I sort of clicked on these. I don't think I really watched much of them. But I'm not following his sort of commentary, frankly. But I did just think it was funny because, he did the whole thing of suing Magnus, Hikaru, Chess.com, and then, like, just getting nothing from the lawsuit. And it's just interesting that even, like, a week ago, he's editing his face on top of Magnus Carlsen's face. It's just a funny thing to do, like, with someone you're not on good terms with. He put his face on top of Magnus's face in that photo, which is a weird thing to do because Magnus got co-world champion. And so I guess Hans beat Nepo. And so he put his face on Magnus's. Like, that doesn't track. That doesn't make sense, So that was the main segment. I can't make it longer. I don't have anything to say. I'm sorry. We need to maybe just think about why we even have a main segment at all. I think it's about time we think about whether a main segment needs to be an inherent part of the podcast. This is going to be a long episode, but we are going to next do the politics desk segment. It should be section, actually. It should actually be section, yeah. Politics desk section from now on, because it is equivalent to a section. Yeah. Well, no, it should just be a segment. Never mind. Change it back. Sorry about that. Okay, so politics. Let's talk politics for a little bit. Americans sour on some of Trump's early moves. I love that photograph. Honestly, that's amazing. Fantastic photo. Fabrizio Bench. Wow, that is like beautiful, honestly. I love how did you get that close to the glass? And this person's looking into it with the flag right there. That's beautiful clouds. Great shot. Great shot. The composition of this pole, the car. Americans have a dim view of some of the new president's early barrage of executive orders, including his attempt to do away with so-called birthright citizenship. That's the thing we've done forever as a country, where you're a citizen if you're born here. And his decision to rename the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of America, which is, I thought that was a joke. I thought I dreamt that. And then I was like, oh, it's actually happening. And I'm like, oh, right. It's like 2016 where you're like, no, that's a joke. And it's never a joke. The poll showed 45% of Americans approve of his performance, down slightly from 47. And the share who disapprove was up to 46% from 39%. The poll, you know who would love this right here, this part of this segment right now? I have a plan. I have a plan. No, I have a plan. I don't know what your plan is to get him back. I have a plan that's actually going to work. I'll tell you about it another time. Because unlike Tom in the marketing department, I know what should and should not be live on the podcast. You know what I mean? Or recorded. Margin of error, but still, that does seem like a bit of a change. His numbers are not impressive by historical standards. Apparently, during his first term, his approval rating hit a high of 49% during his first weeks when he was doing all the worst, bad stuff. Still, everything was bad. People are just like, their feelings are based on no reasons. Like their feelings are valid, but their feelings are also irrational, like based on things that are not materially significant in the actions of a political actor. He closed out his term 15% lower than he started it. Yeah, so far he's only dropped a few percent. Voters more generally remain deeply concerned about the high price of food, housing, and other necessities. Yeah, that's what most people care about. Not about how many genders the government insists there are. Which, again, ask scientists. See what they say. First thing a federal judge blocked was that birthright citizenship thing. Gulf of America, only 25% of respondents supported the idea because it's stupid and it just sounds stupid. Even 30% of Republicans, people willing to call themselves a Republican in 2025, opposed Trump's moves to end federal efforts to promote the hiring of women and members of racial minority groups. When asked specifically about Trump's order to close all federal diversity, equity, and inclusion or DEI offices, respondents were more evenly divided, 51% opposed, 44% in favor, largely along partisan lines. Support for expanding fossil fuel drilling. The majority said they opposed pulling out the U.S. from the climate accords, but Republicans want to back easing of drilling restrictions because they do not have what's called foresight. Unfortunately, I really do think sometimes people have like neurological issues, like a lack of foresight or empathy. I mean, it doesn't seem far-fetched, Some people must, in ways that influence their politics. Okay, well, this was survey of 1,000 adults. Next up on the politics desk segment, we have, as RFK Jr. faces U.S. Senate, questions linger about a measles outbreak in Samoa, half a world away. So you might have heard of this. He visited Samoa in 2019, months before a devastating measles outbreak claimed 83 lives. He said he had nothing to do with people not vaccinating in Samoa. But he didn't just visit to visit. He visited to pitch a health surveillance system, and that the vaccination pause in 2018 was an opportunity to naturally study an unvaccinated population. His trip was coordinated by a local anti-vaccine advocate known for spreading medical misinformation online. This is CBS reporting. Um, uh, and then in August, 2 months after his visit, an infected traveler spread measles, and they had an outbreak, and it was a state of emergency. Apparently, people just need to get vaccinated, and it actually helps a lot. And the evidence against it is not strong. And people who support limiting vaccinations are often not in keeping with the scientific evidence, and they just don't choose to realize that. But yeah, it's easily possible he was not the the biggest effect of this outbreak, but he was wrong. Because he was posting about 2 deaths. A vaccine specialist believes that RFK Jr. deserves harsh judgment for how the outbreak unfolded, because he had been posting about 2 deaths before it was understood what had happened, and blamed the MMR vaccine. When that turned out not to be the case, Kennedy did not correct that false assertion. CBS reached out to him for comment through the organization he led until last month, Children's Health Defense, guess what they do, and did not receive a reply. Samoan health officials said they believe his actions were unlikely to have directly influenced what occurred. So, again, there's no conclusive evidence his visit directly contributed to the outbreak, to the decline in vaccination rates. So there's no immediate evidence, but he was wrong. Because in the midst of their state of emergency with the measles, he sent a letter to the Samoan Prime Minister suggesting a defective vaccine may have been responsible for causing infections, a theory that has been debunked. So he was wrong. His letter partly leaned on an idea that appears to have originated from misinformation widely spread on social media during a 2014-2015 measles outbreak at Disneyland that inaccurately said that measles originating from the vaccine had been identified. People can have symptoms similar to those associated with measles, but they don't spread measles from having the vaccine. After the Samoan infections, critics say Kennedy downplayed the outbreak's severity in blog posts and continued to suggest that the vaccine itself was responsible for the high death rate. He was joined by Del Bigtree, a prominent anti-vaccine activist and Kennedy ally, in pushing conspiracy theories surrounding the outbreak. Vaccine hesitancy remains a challenge globally. Yeah, it does, even here in the U.S. And this guy's going to be health secretary because the Republicans have zero spine or integrity in any sense of the word. And, we don't deserve the pain caused by profiteers like this. Important information about Israel's destruction that they caused in Gaza. This is from the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs from the last couple of weeks. Important information. Just a lot of information on what took place. They have the reported casualties of Palestinians, 46,645 Palestinian people murdered, 13,319 children murdered, Palestinian children murdered. That's probably going to go up, that number. 3,447 elderly Palestinian people murdered, 7,216 women, 16,735 men, as identified as of this is like 6 months ago. Um, 100,000 injuries. Israel, 1,200 reported fatalities. So that's a war. That's what we call a war, right? Not a systematic murder of a people. I wanted to also just look at some of these bits of information. 92% of housing units are destroyed or severely partially damaged in Gaza. This is all about Gaza, correct? Let me just double check. I zoomed in a little bit too much. Reported casualties. Yeah, this is the Gaza Strip specifically. Yeah, okay. So, okay. Wow. This is just a horrible reality. And just to think that it's Israel, it's just so bad. I can't believe, like, it's so horrible that the human brain can really justify like the sort of victim complex of being generational survivors of a genocide and like a sort of like collected diaspora, I guess, in some sort of vague historical sense. Like, because Israel, the thing you have to understand, Zionists never or tend to not admit how far back Zionism goes, but it started way before 1948. I mean, like, and there's nothing wrong, I don't think, with immigrating to a place as long as you're not stealing someone's land. But it was going on for years. Like, it was a plan to try to get as many Jews in Palestine as possible, and not everyone wanted to, like, strip Palestinians of their rights and displace them. But that's what happened. I mean, and so to like. But Jews really, even well before the Holocaust, like, they were motivated by, they were facing pogroms, and Jews have faced a ton of oppression and subjugation all across Europe for centuries, in Italy, Russia, France, like all across. So like, it's not that they need, like, they deserve to be treated well, obviously. But to then carry out this type of occupation, as if you have, it's just this, it's so disturbing. It's so disturbing. Over 96% of children ages 6 to 23 months and women are not meeting their nutrient requirements due to lack of minimum diet diversity. There's so much suffering. Yeah, 92% of housing units in Gaza are destroyed or partially damaged. So 276,000 partial damage or severe damage, we don't know. 160,000 shelters, 160,000 housing units destroyed in Gaza. Wow. Almost 1 million people in need of winterization support. Wow. 50% of hospitals partially functional. 11 field hospitals functional. 38% of primary health care centers functional. 130 ambulances damaged. Oh my gosh. It's just destruction. And you have the US president recently saying, oh, maybe we could develop there, essentially. And that's obviously what reactionary forces want to do, is to create crisis and then profit off those crises. 2 million internally displaced people, 90% of Gaza. 90% of Gaza is displaced. 345,000 people facing catastrophic levels of food insecurity. And 80% of Gaza under active Israeli-issued evacuation orders as of a couple weeks ago. So this has changed because there's been a ceasefire. And people are trying to stop being displaced. But holy shit. I mean, a ceasefire is nothing. Like, it's just the beginning. It's like they need to, obviously what would need to happen is, like, Israel should make decades of amends for what they just did. Give back enormous amounts of land and political control and spend enormous amounts of money rebuilding. And so should the U.S. and Germany and other countries that have contributed to this. Obviously, that's not going to happen. Next up, politics desk segment. This is a follow-up, actually. That's good news also, a little bit of a change. Costco to raise hourly pay for most U.S. store workers to over $30. This is a follow-up because we talked about we talked about this. We talked about the Costco strike, the union members earlier this month said they voted in favor of a nationwide strike, and then they got it's only a $1 raise. It's not that much, but but it's just good. I mean, they need way more. Wow, that's really even less than I thought. It's just $1 raise. I don't get it. Okay. So, okay, $1 and then $2. So, $1 and then $2 over 2 years. That's really not that much. That's like really not that much. And Costco is making so much money. Anyways, more on that. Costco and the Teamsters Negotiating Committee reached tentative agreements. So this is another article, I guess, from a few days later saying that there's going to be a new contract. So maybe that's the same thing. I don't know. Anyways, but another follow-up on the politics desk segment. This is actually, this is a deep cut from a little while ago. We were talking about Nissan and Honda. We had a sort of Friends Forever segment a while ago. Nissan and Honda were talking about wanting to maybe get hitched and make babies together, create the third largest auto group or company. So as they've been talking about a merger, Nissan and Honda, Nissan cuts shifts, offers employees buyouts at 3 U.S. plants in bid to shed jobs. So when companies merge, it's always good for the worker if they want to no longer have a job. So for people who like not having jobs, it's really good for companies to conglomerate and figure out how to cut costs as much as possible while maintaining a profit. Because labor is often a big cost that people don't want to pay. That's why you see a lot of automation. And when companies conglomerate, they want to maybe cut 9,000 jobs. Because there's sales slumps and the chief executives got to get paid. More on that. No. Separate thing. The same guy we were talking about, he's doing a lot in the U.S. government. After he did those Nazi salutes, he is still or allegedly did those Nazi salutes, right? All right. He is still doing an enormous amount influencing the functioning of the U.S. federal government. He's charged with running a human resources agency. Aides to him charged with running a human resources agency have locked career civil servants out of a computer systems that contain the personal data of millions of federal employees' data, according to 2 agency officials. And there's more on that, I believe, where you can see, what was it? Yeah, Musk's aides lock workers out of OPM computer systems. Is this one about OPM? Yeah. Okay, so this is the same article. So they're trying to get rid of a lot of the workforce of the government because they don't want the government to be doing a lot of things that might cost money and not bring profits to them and their friends and their cronies. So now this huge database, which contains birth, social security numbers, appraisals, home addresses, pay grades, and lengths of service of government workers, is in the hands of this oligarch. And they're sending out memos to encourage buyouts of workers, telling them to take a trip. So there, and Musk did what he likes to do, which is install sofa beds at the office so workers can work around the clock. Which seems like an awesome thing. I would be so happy if my boss did that. Oh man, sofa beds, dude. We don't even have to go home, dude. I don't even. Do I even? How many kids do I even have? I mean, I'm sure he goes home, or at least into the bathroom for strange periods of time. Yeah, so I mean, we have a shadow governments in the sense that they're unelected. I didn't vote for that, you know what I mean? But this is how oligarchy works. Next up on politics desk, Native Americans say tribal members harassed by immigration agents. So tribal members, because ICE, you might be shocked to learn that when ICE ramps up its enforcement of crackdowns on undocumented people, a lot of other people get caught in that crossfire as well. It's part of why we shouldn't infringe on people's rights, is because it infringes on other people's rights too. So it's like always a spiral, and you want to just like not infringe on anyone's rights ideally. So this article is about how U.S. law enforcement cops called ICE agents are harassing allegedly Native Americans who are, believe it or not, citizens. You know what I mean? Like they're even more citizens. It's kind of ironic. Not that anyone should be harassed, and obviously a lot of different people of color will be harassed because cops are, just going by visual biases a lot of the time. But Native Americans, it's just ironic. Stop. We gotta end the episode. It's incredibly long. Why are you texting me when I'm in the zone? Native Americans were granted U.S. citizenship in 1924. Seems a little late. You know what I mean? But okay. Politics desk. U.S. Supreme Court rejects challenge to Mississippi lifetime ban on voting by felons. So U.S. Supreme Court declined to hear a challenge to the lifetime ban on voting of people convicted of a wide range of felonies. Yeah, felons can't vote, but they can be president when they have dozens of counts of felonies. They can be president, which I think felons should be able to be president. But I still wouldn't vote for Trump particularly, not because he's a felon, but for other reasons. But I think I do think that taking away people's right to vote is a really bad idea. It was a policy adopted during in 1890 during the Jim Crow era that stands out as one of the toughest such restrictions in the nation, because you're disenfranchising people, and obviously I would be more likely to commit more crime if I was disenfranchised and didn't feel like a part of the community. So it's just a stupid idea, and it's just for control of people. Obviously, a lot of black people specifically. It's for disenfranchising black people specifically and making it so white people can have a ethno-state, essentially. Next up on politics desk, Congress approves more flights at the... So obviously there was this terrible plane crash in the last week. It's horrible. It really is so... that shit freaks me out so much. And I was reading a lot of articles about it, and one of them was about how Congress has in recent years approved more and more flights at that airport right nearby that the plane was flying to. Congress has repeatedly voted to increase the number of daily flights at Reagan National Airport. There's like a slot system, and it's just one of 3 airports governed by that slot system, presumably because Congress members use the airport a lot. That allows them to fly home from an airport just a few minutes from their offices on Capitol Hill. They've authorized more than 50 takeoffs or landings additional per day since 2000, including 10 that lawmakers approved last year. I don't think they've gone into effect yet, potentially, but Tim Kaine's been against it. He has some good takes. It's just like this too much in the airspace. It was a crash caused by a helicopter and a plane colliding. It's horrible, and apparently the helicopter was too high. But like shit happens, so you have to have redundancy. You have to have safety. You need to make it so it's less likely. There have been a lot of near misses. Like it was just a matter of time. Oh, sorry, the art segment. So we're done with the politics. Sorry, I should have been more ceremonial. It almost looks like we're continuing the politics because it is the leader of a country. We're trying to keep those sections or segments separated. Okay. Anyways, now it's the art segment. Welcome to the art segment. France's Macron announces renovation to expand the capacity of Louvre Museum. So I have not been to that museum. So I will hopefully, I'll probably wait until they're done, frankly. I don't want to see it if it's not even done. They're going to renovate the Louvre. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce French. Make room for huge crowds. Yeah, I mean, it does kind of suck. Like, if there's like a crazy huge crowd, it does kind of suck sometimes at museums. So that'd be nice to not have. They get 9 million visitors a year, more than double the 4 million from the 1980s that it was designed to handle. Now they'll be able to have over 12 million people a year. How does it matter? How do they measure it per year? Why would the size of the building affect the per year number? Wouldn't it affect the per day number? Okay. Cool. Well, next up on the art segment. Oh, never mind. It's related to that. The Louvre is seeking they're not given a budget, but several sources say that it's about 1 billion euros, which is 30% more than the 5-year reconstruction of Notre Dame Cathedral. But yeah, in that previous article, we just saw they said like, oh, it's not going to cost the taxpayer anything. So what's the problem here? Another union claims that conditions at the museum have deteriorated. The Louvre is indeed in a distressing state, and the visiting conditions are deplorable, and the dilapidation of the place is threatening the collections, says the union. Wow. They're like, maybe that's the one thing they'll listen to if it's going to threaten the objects. It describes the grand project of a new entrance as an aberrant in a period of public deficit. The culture ministries, yeah, I guess they're doing the same sorts of things in France that they're doing in the U.S., where they try to just like erase the government. Sorry, I should have read like the main thing. Comments from the director of the Louvre in a leaked memo to the French culture minister said the Louvre is overcrowded, lacking proper signposting or any spaces to take a break. The food and drink facilities are low quality. The toilets are... Wow. Interesting. Okay. Wow. So apparently the Louvre is in a bad state. Oh, wow. Interesting. This like clothing company or whatever... Okay, we should probably get out of here. I mean, one more art segment. Unprecedented month-long strikes planned at major London museums. Great. The Union of Voices of the World says about 100 of its members work as security guards at the 3 museums, all of whom are employed by the... Yeah, there's often a lot of exploitation of the security guards, and that is a tough job, honestly. I'm not even joking. They got to stand or sit there alone just watching people. That's a tough job. I'd be walking around the museums and be like, hey, how's it going? You know, try to make them laugh a little bit. Hey, you know, what's the fuck's wrong with that piece? You know, I'm just kidding. I didn't really do that. But I would think about doing stuff like that, you know. They're trying to get a pay rise to £16 an hour. That's not that much. Sick pay from day one, of course, and full parity with direct. You shouldn't have to earn things like sick pay. Full parity with directly employed museum stuff. I agree. Yeah, absolutely. More annual leave and annual bonus. Yeah, I hope they get it. Okay, Arts Desk is a little bit political, but I'm learning to accept that. That sort of dialectic, I think, is important sometimes. All right, let's check the mailbag. Let's close some windows. Sorry I didn't show you the closing of the windows on this previous one before this. I know that can be hard when you don't get to see me closing all the windows. So before we get out of here, this is one of the longest episodes ever. I can't wait to find out next episode, which will be public, by the way. Can't wait to find out where this one sort of sits with the longest episodes of all time. I hope we have that information. It's got to be someone's job to look that up. It's not mine. Yeah, I know whose it used to be. Okay, no one wrote in. Feel free to write into verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.com. And next up, I'm going to thank the patrons and the members. Let's start with the members. I feel like we often start with the patrons, and it's getting to be a little bit of a bias, and I want to check myself. So thank you to members: Jaden, Simply Snaps, 39% Weird, Pit Inhabitant, Hollow Moon, Trusty Ghost, Jifa, Eva, Jasmine, Matthew, Ibnomad. My thing's like jumping. It's really weird. Maddie, Jeebus the Great, Loplian, and Ramon. And then thank you to Patreon audience members. So my Patreon audience people are in order of lifetime support. I'd like to start with the big guns. Thank you, user MJ, Miles, Brent, Kyle, Madeline, Rabid Dog, Mr. Moxie, Irene, Verbal Gerbil, Ryan, Linguist Sam, Anastasios, Thulusaurus Rex, Luca, Gunther, Scott, Jack, Ashley, Redgrove, Ian, Hugh, Russ, Gaff45er, Swit, Jen, Platinum, Sarge, Elemancy, Caleb, King, Tom, Noah, Matt, MK, Oliver, Ibnomad, Miranda, Ruben, X, Emily, Icelack, MT, JC, Lily, Luna, A, Alexis, B, and Perpetually Jackson. Thanks for the support. It means a lot financially. It means a lot to me financially speaking. And great episode, right? I think this was a good time. I will be back next week, and like I said, we will be public. So be on your best behavior, please. And thanks for watching, I guess. You know what I mean? You should be thanking me, and you probably are. So I don't need to say you're welcome. That's probably a little too aggressive. How do we end it in a more friendly way? Bye.
This is a podcast or something like that.